I'm Stephanie Talon.
And I'm Zach Jacobs.
Welcome to week 6 of our General Assembly video updates. As you can see, we're on location here at Capitol Square. The Capitol's behind us. Doesn't look quite as good as it normally does. There's obviously still a lot of construction going on. You can see from the fence and probably from the construction noises behind us. There's a little behind schedule on getting these updates done to the General Assembly building and the Capitol building. If you remember from our video last year on location, we said next year we'll be back in the original General Assembly building. Unfortunately, that was not the case. They are still working on, the exterior. You can see the General Assembly building behind the Capitol. The exterior looks pretty good. I think they're pretty much complete with that, but the interior still needs some work to be done. I think the committee rooms and the meeting rooms weren't quite ready to have session this year, so we're delaying that now until 2024. We were back in the Pocahontas building, which is in front of us here this year. Unfortunately for some of the legislators, they had already moved out of the Pocahontas building and had to move back in for this session, so I'm sure that was a pain for them, but at least we knew the building, we knew our way around this year, so it worked out from that aspect, but certainly looking forward to being in a brand new General Assembly building next year. Switching gears to legislative process here. So Zach, we're about to wind down session, but still working on a bunch of bills. Can you tell us about the food donation tax credit bill that you've been working on?
Yeah, so this legislation originally kind of came through several years ago, and it was an opportunity for farmers or producers to donate their food crops to nonprofits or food banks, and then receive a percentage of the cost of that food back as a tax credit. And unfortunately, that program ended last year, and so Delegate Bennett Parker and Senator Rouse have tried to resurrect that program here in the General Assembly this year. But as those two companion bills have moved through both chambers, they've changed up a little bit so that they're no longer identical bills. And so the next step for that bill and any other bill here in the General Assembly that is not aligned with its counterpart we'll go into conference committees next week where all the negotiations between legislators will take place, and they'll find what works and what's appropriate for them, or what they feel is appropriate moving forward for any legislation that needs to be part of that conference committee. So we'll see where that ends up, but we're hoping to maybe bring that tax credit back as an option for our farmers and producers across the Commonwealth. But we had our last House Ag Committee meeting this week, and I know that there were a couple bills in there that we certainly wanted to highlight.
Yes, that's right. So since session is winding up next week, most of the committees had to finish their work this week. So both the Senate Agriculture and House Agriculture committees met for the last time this week. A couple bills I want to highlight, of course, our Chesapeake Bay bills. Delegate Weber and Senator Hanger have been carrying those for us this year. As a reminder, those are the bills that would delay the mandatory implementation date for stream exclusion practices and nutrient management plans in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Originally, that bill was designed to delay the date until 2030. We, of course, have had a lot of issues with COVID and supply chain issues and getting those practices on the ground. There's been roller coaster funding, and so it's really become necessary at this time to just give us some more time to get those practices on the ground. Farmers are still committed to meeting those goals, but we need a little bit of extra time to do so. Through compromises and negotiations, the bills now delay the date until 2028. In addition, if full funding is not received for the Agricultural Best Management Practices program, then that could be delayed another year up until 2030. So again, just giving us a little bit more leeway to get those practices on the ground. I think another key component of the bill is the stakeholder advisory group that it convenes, and that group is going to monitor progress and make recommendations for improvements to meeting the goals going forward. So again, some more accountability and a better balance at getting that timeline in place for us meeting our Chesapeake Bay water quality goals. Another bill I want to mention is Senator Vogel's bill related to farm buildings and agreements in lieu of plans for stormwater management and erosion sediment control laws. Right now, only single-family residences can do what's called an agreement in lieu of a plan for stormwater management when constructing those buildings. And this bill would pull farm buildings into that as well and make them eligible for that agreement in lieu of a plan. For folks who have, or for construction projects who are having a smaller footprint, this just makes more sense as far as simplifying the process. Doesn't, exclude them from any environmental requirements, but just make sure it's easier getting those in place. And so we do support those bills, and they have passed the committees this week, and we'll keep you posted of that progress moving forward. So Zach, since next week is our last week of General Assembly, that means it's time for our smiley face video. So I hope everyone will tune back in as we do a full rundown of all the bills that we've been following this year in the form of smiley faces. So thanks for following us, and we'll see you next week.